Welcome to The Fly-In, a podcast brought to you by the New Dems. Today is Monday, June 9th. I'm Marc Veasey, and today we'll be joined by two guests because one is the loneliest number that you'll ever do. And we have New Dem members Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands and Nikki Budzinski from Illinois. We'll get right into it. Last week's Trump-Musk feud, even more harmful cuts Republicans are planning for this week, and updates on the New Dem policy agenda. But first, let's get into the cost check-in. Greg, we've had a lot of crazy things happen since last week, and the Trump administration continues to drive up prices. Last week's steel and aluminum tariffs doubled to 50%. It's driving up groceries. It is a big part of the critical packaging that goes into a lot of the products that we buy when we go to the store. Think about all those canned goods you buy, canned tuna, soda, beer, pet food. The fact is that the U.S. does not produce enough steel, and U.S. imports nearly 70% of tin plate steel that manufacturers use for a lot of these items that I just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're entering this sort of transition from when the tariffs, roller coaster, trade war chaos occupied a lot of our attention nationally, and it was a major story, and it will still be a big story. But now we're getting into the phase of this where it's having a real impact on people's day-to-day lives. When they go to the grocery store, you're going to start seeing, if you haven't already, and I've heard from some folks that they have, higher prices.
Trump is going to, talk about, I'm going to create all these jobs with these steel tariffs, but how many jobs is he going to eliminate? And I want people to think back to 2018. Trump's tariffs actually eliminated about 75,000 manufacturing jobs in the U.S. And so people need to understand that, he's going to talk about these new steel jobs that may be created, but how many jobs is it going to eliminate? Because you can't increase the price on so many American consumers and not have it have a negative impact on our economy and have job loss as a result of that.
Yeah, the other thing is that they are doing this in the context of cutting food assistance. And so, it would be one thing, and we've seen presidents and Congresses support efforts to support U.S. steel. I mean, I'm a big supporter of attempts to embolden U.S. steel to strengthen our hand in the global market. But this global trade war includes everything, so the cost of everything is going up. And while they're, increasing the cost of things at the store, they're going to, in this budget bill, which we're going to talk about later, take away food assistance from, millions, if not tens of millions of Americans. I mean, $300 billion cut to food assistance. So, everything you're supposed to do, they're not doing. And the things that you are supposed to avoid, they're all in on.
Greg, should we be saying three big, beautiful things?
I think we can just say three big things.
Yeah. We'll just say three big things. Obviously, the three biggest things going on in the country and Congress that happen. The big, beautiful brawl between Elon Musk and Donald Trump, the rescission package that everyone is talking about. And of course, we're going to have Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands be our special guest this week.
Yeah, so the first one has huge implications in terms of the budget bill.
Yeah.
And whether or not they're going to have enough votes. If Elon is saying this is a terrible bill, because of the trillions of dollars it adds to the deficit, and it provides greater focus on the bill, and the more people pay attention to the bill, the more unpopular it gets. And so it does have implications beyond the entertainment value. It could sink the bill. But from an entertainment, or at least a recap standpoint, last Tuesday, Elon called the bill a disgusting abomination. He called on Republicans to kill the bill. Trump then threatened to cancel all Musk government contracts, which is insane and corrupt. Elon claims that Trump could not have won the 2024 election without his help. Then Trump claims Elon went crazy after the EV tax credits were dismantled in this bill. Elon then endorses a post calling for Trump's impeachment. issues a threat to Republican lawmakers to support him over Trump. Elon claims Trump's tariffs will cause a recession this year. Unfortunately, that's probably true. And then on Friday, Trump said he's not even thinking about him. The poor guy's got a problem. I believe, while all of this is, crazy and captured the attention of everyone on Twitter.
Yeah.
And Twitter was fun again for a day or two. It is an attempt, I believe, to distract from this bill, which is deeply, deeply unpopular. This is about the super wealthy, a bunch of billionaires fighting with each other over dumb shit in order to steal attention from the fact that they are taking away health care from 16 million people.
Yeah, absolutely. They're doing that. I want to ask you, because everything that you talked about, that's not even the end of it, right? Like, there's even more. There's a story that's going around D.C., and I just heard the president a few minutes ago, he wouldn't deny it, that Basant, the Treasury Secretary, and Elon were like in the White House throwing hands. Like, they were like getting down, like fighting. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Elon is the world's richest man.
Yeah.
And then you have other cabinet officials that are also billionaires, and then you have the president, who's a billionaire. This is literally a bunch of billionaires fighting with each other.
It is.
As Rome burns, as the market it continues to struggle, as costs are going up, and as they are trying to pass a budget that will make healthcare and food and a bunch of other things more expensive for everyday people, just to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy. I mean, it is what most of us hate about politics right now,
absolutely.
Which is all of these folks who have a ton of money have way too much power, and things are getting worse for most folks, and now they're fighting with each other. It's so dumb.
All right, next on the fly-in, we have our good friend Stacey Plaskett from the Virgin Islands. Stacey, welcome.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me here.
The rescission package.
Yeah.
That's part of the Three Big Things segment that we're talking about today. It's going to cancel close to $10 billion in funds that Congress appropriated, over $8 billion in USAID funding. It would make the DOGE cuts permanent. Over, the PEPFAR. I don't know if you've been seeing the controversy about the PEPFAR.
Which was a program started by a Republican
president. Which was
president.
a program started by, George W. Bush. Yeah, that's right. And of course, over $1 billion in cuts to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, PBS, NPR programs that all of us like. I would be really upset if I had to miss an episode of Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me.
Oh, really? You're into that one?
I love Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me.
Well, just PBS as a parent. How many, I can't, the amount of hours that I've spent in front watching PBS shows with my children over the years.
But more important than our shows, I mean, PEPFAR, USAID, again.
This is all the soft power, the diplomacy that America does. I'm also on the Intelligence Committee, and I go out to many of these countries that we are still trying to persuade them to be our allies in the fight against terrorism, great power competition, backsliding democracies. And a lot of that support comes from the work that USAID does. No member of Congress goes to a country and wants to talk with them about defense spending, others, etc., and then does not meet with USAID. Because they're on the ground, they know what the people are saying, they know what's happening in those countries, and that's going to be abysmal to us in terms of our ability to effectuate change at the people level in a lot of countries.
I think that's right.
Yeah, a couple of things. One is, this is, again, you got the world's richest people who've sort of seized control of the government. Obviously, Trump was elected, but then all these billionaires get, put in place all over the government, including Musk, who then use their power to hurt the country's and the world's poorest children.
Sure.
Taking PBS away or cutting PBS is something that, every family uses it, but it is something that middle class and low income families use to help with their kids.
Sure,
I mean, this is
to support learning.
This is where kids learn.
Yes.
Mine did, their alphabet, the letters, shapes, colors, all of the things that help with early learning that leads to a kid ready for school, which leads to early literacy, which leads to high school graduate.
Well, of course, this ties right into them trying to get rid of funding for Head Start.
Yeah.
Right? And all of the education funding that they're trying to remove.
I hope they don't ultimately have the votes. They plan to bring this up at the end of the week when everyone's in town. They apparently have some attendance issues earlier this week, so they may have to punt. But let's say it's close, and I think it will be close because there are some folks who cannot. It's not just that they can't stomach the idea of all of these kids dying because they decided to pull funding, but you're talking about places that will be forever and dangerously destabilized. Let's take, for example, Jordan.
Well, Jordan definitely.
They're the number one sort of beneficiaries of USAID. They've got a huge unemployment issue in Jordan, and if Jordan were to fall, that becomes pure chaos in the Middle East, and then we get dragged into an even larger conflict. They said this is one of the most significant things they're facing is these cuts.
Well, I think they're going to have the votes.
You do?
Oh yeah, totally. I think they're going to have the votes. They're going to have the votes for this one. There are going to be other rescission packages. And then members will be able to say that they're going to vote against a rescission package on some issue that's closer to home. While this is dealing with people outside of the United States, in many instances, part of the whole America First philosophy that they have, that they're going to vote against it.
But they're not putting, they're not putting this money into everyday Americans. In fact, they're using this for tax cuts for the wealthy and or to add more to the deficit. It's insane.
Before we break away from this segment, I do want to ask you, because I think that oftentimes the territories get the short end of the stick on so much that happens in this building. And I want to ask you, how are these cuts, these potential cuts, going to impact the Virgin Islands when you look at rural hospitals, nutrition programs?
Yeah. Well, we
Medicaid.
have 30% of the children in the Virgin Islands are in poverty. When Democrats had their child tax credit, that lifted so many kids out of poverty in the Virgin Islands and was able to really support a lot of children, just like it did across the country. But I've been telling a lot of members that if you want to understand what this reconciliation package and the cuts to Medicaid will look like, come to the Virgin Islands. Presently, we have caps on the amount of funding that the federal government will give us in Medicaid, which has meant that when you need more money for more services, it just doesn't happen. Yeah. And we will, in the Virgin Islands, remove people off of the rolls of Medicaid when we don't have sufficient funding, and then those people just go with untreated. Or they'll go to the hospital as a primary care, and then we'll have uncompensated care in the hospitals, which then in turn leads to doctors not getting paid, nurses not getting paid, vendors not getting paid. We had doctors send a letter to the government saying that, listen, we may have to go on strike because we can't fulfill our Hippocratic oath because you don't have oxygen, we don't have sufficient emergency rooms, and the reason you don't have that is because you don't have enough funding that's coming in for the neediest of individuals. And that's going to happen across the country. That's what's going to happen when these Medicaid cuts come. I tell people all the time, listen, you may not be on Medicaid, and you don't think this is going to affect your family, but it is. Because these Medicaid, the Medicaid funding that goes to doctors, that goes to hospitals, are the difference in a lot of these hospitals still staying open, are the difference in a lot of doctors still being able to practice, which is why you then have choices, why you then, in some rural areas, have the ability to go to a doctor. And that's what we see in the Virgin Islands. That's what we fight about all the time, whether it's myself or in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico didn't have funding, and they decided to borrow money. They went to the bond market. A lot of that money that caused them to go into bankruptcy when they weren't able to pay at the bond market was because they were paying for poor people to have the services that they do. And that's just abysmal. And when you talk about class warfare, we have a HBCU in the Virgin Islands. 70% of our students are on aid. 70% of them get Pell Grants, and they're talking about getting rid of that. That's going to be tragic.
That's bad. Congresswoman Plaskett, thank you very much for joining us. How's your daughter doing in boarding school?
Oh my gosh, she's doing great. We picked her up from school last weekend. My husband went and got her. She's halfway through.
That's awesome.
How's your son?
He's doing good. He's making good grades. And speaking of places where people have fun, like the Virgin Islands in college, he's learned how to snowboard, but managed to keep his GPA up in Colorado.
That's excellent. That's excellent.
Yeah, well, I'm down for that.
I'm blessed. My oldest son just got his master's in teaching at Columbia.
Congratulations.
And then, the youngest had a great year in high school. So, it can't get any better than that. But I want to thank you guys for having this.
Absolutely.
I think people want to know what's happening here in Congress, and I think you guys are speaking about it in plain English so that people really know what's the deal, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you guys.
I told you earlier that we're going to have two special guests on the fly-in this week, and now to my left is my good friend Nikki Budzinski from Illinois. And Nikki, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your district. I think that people would probably like to know that you're not from Chicago.
No, I'm not. That's a good point. First of all, it's so exciting to be on the show with you and Greg, so it's exciting to be on the fly-in. I represent a district that's actually 3 hours south of Chicago, so when you think of my district in central and southern Illinois, I live in Springfield, the hometown of Abraham Lincoln. I actually fly in and out of St. Louis, so I'm closer to I'm probably just as close to the Kentucky state line as I am to the Wisconsin state line.
Oh,
so
wow.
I'm right in the middle of the state,
Do y'all have a taste of, like there's a taste of Chicago. Do y'all have a taste of Springfield?
Yeah, so we have, well, first of all, we host the state fair in Illinois. So we have all kinds of fried things. You want a fried Twinkie, you want a fried Oreo. They have the best corn dogs. I also represent the world capital for horseradish in Collinsville, Illinois.
Wow. I want to talk about your role in the New Dems.
Yeah.
And specifically, New Dems on the Road.
Yeah.
Do y'all go on the road? Do you sing On the Road again? Like
With Willie Nelson?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we should.
I know, right? Tell us about New Dems on the Road.
So I'm very excited. I'm the Vice Chair for Policy, and the New Dems have always been very thoughtful, I think, policy makers. We've always had working groups on a whole host of different issues, some around affordability, some around energy, some around the care economy, just a variety of different issues, education. But we've always kind of had those conversations rooted in Washington. And I think the thing that's so great about On the Road is it's about going out into the real world of sorts, talking to our constituents, talking to local stakeholders. So we don't just set policy here in the bubble of Washington, but we actually go out into our districts and find out from people directly, how is this going to impact your life? And so we've hosted this On the Road series. We launched it just a couple of months ago, but we've already hosted a series of them, and throughout the summer, we'll have hosted probably about 9 by the end of the whole thing, which is great. And it's really a testament to the members of the New Dems that they're willing to host them in their districts on different topics. So the first one, and this is an area, as you know, New Dems has been leading on in a bipartisan way for a very long time, which is immigration reform.
Right.
So Congressman Stanton, Congressman Lou Correa came together in Phoenix and hosted a local stakeholder conversation around what do we see to be a fix to this broken immigration system. Yes, we do need to secure the border. Yes, we do need to invest in that. But we also need to fix the legal pathway for folks to get into this country legally so that it doesn't take decades to do that. How do we do that in a thoughtful way? And I mean, I'm someone that very much believes that issue is only going to be resolved on a bipartisan basis. So starting to kind of do that work ahead of what I know we all believe and hope we take the majority back in 2026. When we do, we will have a list of policy prescriptions that we're ready to go on day one. So we did that. I actually hosted the other one in my district in St. Louis with Congressman Wesley Bell, Congressman Scott Peters. Scott's been a leader in permitting reform and clean energy generation, what we need to be building. He talked about the fact that it takes 10 years in this country to build a transmission line. We've got to speed that up. If we're going to be able to compete with AI, we're going to be able to attract AI and innovation and compete with China. So that's the second one we did. And then really exciting, Congresswoman Sarah McBride hosted one on paid family medical leave, because one of the things, as you know, we're really focused on is affordability. Like, how do we put money back in the pockets of working people and actually help bring down costs? I know that's what Donald Trump said he was going to focus on, but hasn't focused on any of that.
None of it.
So New Dems, we're focused on that. And I think as, at least, I'd be curious what you're hearing at home, but at home it's like you can't beat something with nothing.
Yeah.
Like the Democrats, we have to put forward a vision for what our policy prescriptions are, make them pragmatic, make them grounded in reality, so that when we do take the House majority back, we're ready to roll.
Yeah, that's right.
That's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you found that it's difficult to have these conversations in the context of all the chaos and mayhem and sort of the fires that are constantly being set by this administration? And you know, are people able to sort of pull themselves, you know, from that, or maybe they're just not paying attention to that as much as we think they are, to be able to talk about the future and how to fix these things? Or is it pretty easy?
Well, I think you're right. I mean, it's a good question. It's such a huge distraction what the administration is doing, whether it's invading Greenland, if it's renaming the Gulf of Mexico. I mean, all of those in my mind are shiny objects that like take us away from the real work. And I also think when I talk to folks at home, it's like that's the kind of political noise that people are so sick and tired of. So it's kind of like cutting through that, breaking through that nonsense. And that's why we're really thoughtful with this On the Road series about who we're bringing to the table. These are really local policy experts on, you know, energy deployment. We heard from a number of different people, clean energy investors, and when we're talking about trying to defend the clean energy tax credits out of the Inflation Reduction Act and how Republicans have basically completely eliminated them in the House version of the reconciliation package, that's going to mean jobs, and that's going to mean jobs in the district. So it's kind of like breaking through the noise and bringing together the policy experts to try to stay focused on the substance. And I think we can do it. I really do. I think people are hungry for that, and I think they're also hungry for real solutions, like what are you going to get done? And so I think, you know, we're kind of policy geeks, so like we like to spend that time thinking about this, and I think that will break through with voters.
What's for, you know, on the road? What's next? What are some cities that you're going to be going to next, and what's the strategy behind the different regions that you pick?
Well, we really, I mean, it's kind of up to the members. We let the members that are particularly interested in issue, like for example, Congresswoman Amelia Sykes is very passionate about housing and addressing housing, so she's going to host one of our next On the Road, which hopefully we'll get Congressman Landsman to come to. But we try to bring together members that are interested in a topic, so she's leading on that one. But we're also going to do one with Congresswoman Valerie Foushee and Congresswoman Deborah Ross in North Carolina in the Triangle to talk about innovation, clean energy, another clean energy conversation. Sam Liccardo, who's a member that represents Silicon Valley. Like, I think what's one of the things that I'm hoping will come out of this is that the Democrats, we are not the party of status quo. We are the party that has an innovation agenda and an agenda that's going to get things done. So whether it's talking about tech in Silicon Valley, and Sam's going to lead that and has come forward. He's our working group chair on innovation. Or looking to Valerie and Deborah to do something in North Carolina. It's kind of up to the member. And then we open it up to other members that might want to join.
Last question, then we got to stop. The favorite meal on the road?
Ooh, favorite meal on the road. I would say, so this is really weird. Well, here, I love to go to Bull Feathers, and I love their buffalo chicken sandwich and French fries. They have some of the best French fries, I will say.
The French fries are good.
But I would say Indian chicken tikka masala is always like, that's a treat. I would say that's my go-to.
All right.
Nikki, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's great to be with you guys.
Thank you for joining us this week. Before we take off, please remember to follow us across social media platforms and to rate and review the show wherever you get the podcast. We want to hear from you. We'll see you next time on The Fly In.